Ooh-wee, we are back, and we are buying, and we're selling. Joe Douglas, he said a lot. We already talked about Saleh. Now it's time to talk about Joe Douglas. Quarterback at 10. LaSauce, the GM. It's time to see, time to talk. I'm Boy Green meets Wudi.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Welcome to another episode of Boy Green meets Wudi. It is me. It is I, James Wudi. All right, my head is cut off. I'm working from the cell phone, but it don't matter. Through hell or high water, I will be here to talk New York Jets with the man, the myth, the legend. Oh, my Lord, the best reporter in the biz. Boy Green, how you doing?
You know, I'm glad that we get to do the show. It's fun. It's a little different from some of the other shows I do, which is a lot of fun. It's cool that we get to do this. But with the annual league meeting officially over, I suppose it's cool to be able to sandwich these two things. On Tuesday, we talked Robert Saleh, buy or sell, the BS he was trotting out, and buy or sell now the Joe Douglas action. And boy, there was some meat on the bone. I wanted to get to some of this on Tuesday, but you know, all good things come to those who wait.
Yes, they sure do. They sure do. Patience is a virtue. And now that we're here, now that it's Thursday, let's talk some quotes. I have my credit card ready, so if it's time to buy, if it's time to sell, I'm here.
Okay. I will just say for the first buy, whenever that is with all of these items, again, we're going to buy or sell some of the things Joe Douglas said. For the first couple of buys, I guess I'll put it on your tab. You'll get the cost for some of these purchases. That sounds good. So let's start out with the number 10 overall pick. And it really just a lame excuse just to use this. Oh, yeah, baby. The production value up for the Boy Green meets Wudi. Hey, business is doing great. You got to take advantage of the great team. We got like 20, 50 producers, obviously off camera, that are making this show what it is. We need to start off with the first buy or sell. And this one made me give, as all the fans appreciate, a zoinks, which was this. Joe Douglas not closing the door on the New York Jets potentially taking a quarterback with the number 10 overall pick. Here are some of the quotes from Joe Douglas. Quote, the draft is going to present a lot of interesting possibilities at the quarterback position. So we're exploring that. We've got our coaches and scouts on the road working out a bunch of different positions. Later in his answer, look, I'm not going to get into whether we're taking a quarterback at 10 or not. I think I left the door open in terms of we got a lot of flexibility. Another quote where he explained the importance between balancing the present in the future. So he left the door wide open. So I ask you, Wudi, buy or sell JD potentially taking a quarterback with the 10th overall pick, that it's among the options that they are seriously considering. It's not 0%. It is a non-0% chance the Jets could take a quarterback with the 10th overall pick. Buy or sell?
I am going to have to sell, not because I would be physically upset if they were to draft a quarterback. I am selling because I think Aaron Rodgers would be upset. This is Aaron's world. We're just living in it. And yes, we've seen everything that's happened with Jordan Love and all that, the development, and the Packers just made the playoffs. I don't think the Jets have earned their Jordan Love just about yet. This pay cut that Aaron took, CJ took, that Joe Douglas also mentioned during that same interview. These were win-now moves to draft a quarterback 10th overall would be irresponsible, especially since it is almost a guarantee that the top 3 quarterbacks would be off the board. Trade up and get a quarterback might be non-zero. But to draft a quarterback at 10, telling me they're about to draft J.J. McCarthy or Penix Jr., one of these guys, get out of my face with that. I am selling.
Okay, real quick to the chat. As Woody's talking, are you guys hearing any crackling noise? So I don't know if we're experiencing an audio difficulty with Woody. So if you are, let me know. If it's just me, fine. I will bear through because I'm a trooper. But if you guys are hearing it, yes, they are. Okay, Woody, I'm going to kick you out real quick. That's what I thought. We're going to remove you real quick. We're going to kick you from the room and see if we can curtail that issue. Yeah, he had some crackling audio there. Thank you, everybody, for the immediate responses there as well. Okay, we'll see if we could get Woody back in a second. On my own buy or sell, it's simply this. I am selling because there's 2 reasons why I'm going to sell Joe Douglas's comment. Number 1, I think 4 quarterbacks are going before the Jets are even on the clock in some order or fashion. And maybe we'll get a little bit of a surprise, but I think 4 quarterbacks are going in some order. Like I said, Caleb Williams, Drake May, we're getting a little bit of everybody here. As I believe we're going to get, like I said, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and J.J. McCarthy. I believe all those 4 will be off the board before the Jets pick. So if you're at pick 10 for the Jets and only 9 picks have to go, and 4 of the 9 were quarterback, you're telling me, if you're the Jets, that you're going to take the 5th quarterback of the group at 10? That would be wild. That the Jets somehow think that the best quarterback of the draft is the 5th one and no one else saw who it was. That to me would be wild. So I am selling this down the river. There's absolutely no way the New York Jets are doing this. Now, I'm selling that it's an actual possibility on the board because the number 2 thing is Douglas is trying to create buzz. He's trying to create interest. He's trying to create trade waves possibly for people slapping and moving up to 10, whether that's Minnesota, whether that's Denver, whether that's Las Vegas, trying to jump into the Jet spot and create some of that interest. So I don't know if anyone's buying that themselves, but for us, I just have to say is that's who I believe. Okay, I think we have Woody back. All right, let's Woody, give me something here.
They are trying to keep me out of this show, but it's not going to happen, Boy Green. I am going to be here no matter what. No matter what. Sounded like you're selling. I'm selling. Get that out of my face. Maybe trade up, but a quarterback at 10? Nah.
Yeah, again, I just don't buy it because, again, if the Jet... So there is a flexibility. Part of what Douglas said is true, that there's a flexibility at the 10th overall pick that you can get anything, which I suppose, if you squint, could include quarterback. But that is only under the premise that one of your quarterbacks you love is there. And I'm under the belief that if the Jets are going quarterback, it would be the 5th quarterback. So you're going to sell to your fan base. Don't worry, we got the best one for sure. Number 5. And that to me is hard. At 10. Now, if they trade back, they pick up a 2nd. Penix slips and slides to them. That would be a fun selection to throw in there because the 2nd rounder would be a bonus pick. It's a pick you didn't even have. And now you have it. And booyah, bippity boopity bop, Michael Penix is hopefully your long-term answer at quarterback. So that could be fun. But I am selling that down the river. And we'll see if any other teams are buying what he's selling because I'm sure he's saying that out to the universe saying, hey, maybe we take quarterback. I don't know. And the team's like, oh, boy, they might take a quarterback. Okay, I got to trade up with them. So hopefully that works because as Jet fans, the more the merrier here potentially. But yeah, I'm going to have to sell that. I do not believe the Jets are going quarterback with the 10th overall pick. All right, let's start over to you, Woody.
Absolutely. Well, Joe Douglas, he was joking, right? He was lighthearted guy about the Aaron Rodgers vice presidential campaign.
Yes.
Said hopefully he feels like he has some candidates for Director of Homeland Security now that he's fortified the offensive line. He feels really good about it. I know most of us feel pretty good about it if healthy, right? There's the asterisk that I always hear amongst fans. Are you buying that Joe Douglas is done with offensive line moves? He seems pretty content. Does that mean that we're done right? That 10th overall pick is offensive. Like, how are you feeling about the offensive line? Because Joe Douglas, it seems like he is all set. Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell that he's done, because I think offensive line is very much in the conversation at 10, which is my long way. Like, if this is the starting 5, which, by the way, I don't know who they could take. And I know I've heard Trevor Sikkema joined the Mina Kimes show, which is awesome. I love Trevor. He joined the Mina Kimes show, and they both agreed on offensive line. And part of his spiel was Troy Fontenot, the Washington offensive lineman, could take the starting job away from John Simpson. I was like, whoa. And Connor Rogers said some of that too. So, like, they're all kind of in the pool together of, like, it could give you an immediate upgrade potentially at left guard and your long-term tackle. I think, to be honest, the starting 5 as is going to be the starters. Anything can happen, I guess. Simpson you'd come to camp and you get surprised, and Fontenot, if that was the pick, maybe takes the job. But I think the starting 5 is the starting 5. Really, whoever they take. Even if Joe Alt, like, I don't think Joe Alt's kicking Morgan Moses or Tyron Smith to the bench. I think even unless he learns Guatemalan and starts playing guard or some other position, I think he would start off on the bench unless some injury happened. So I am going to sell that Joe Douglas has done an offensive line, specifically to the back half of your point of, like, first round, because I still think I would love to see depth. I'd love to see even at 72 if you take a guard, because I don't know how many tackles are still going to be there. Yeah, I'm all aboard getting even more in the trenches. So I sell that he's done. I think that's just, maybe I'm done. Like, I think he's just saying hoopla. He's just saying complete nonsense there.
Fair enough. I am obviously hoping he's not done. I think everyone in the chat, everybody watching, is hoping he's not done. I think he might be pretty done. I'm gonna buy it. I think they have faith in Carter Warren, right? They re-signed their depth pieces in the interior. Wes is still there. They re-signed Jake Hansen. I think they're about to just roll with the guys that they have. Maybe, like you said, draft somebody. If they draft my boy Zach Zinter from Michigan, that's a late round pick. That's somebody who is not going to be too much of a factor in 2024. So I think in terms of people they intend to play at the line, right? So that includes guys like Carter and West, because they're the first guys in case of injury. I think Joe might be done.
Okay. I can respect your opinion. Now, I don't want to get too far off topic. We have a full shish kebab to get here, but I don't want to ignore the story that some people are tweeting about or also posting about in our chat. I did see that Woody Johnson vehemently pushed against that Woody Johnson pushed against a Colleen Wolfe NFL Network thing, that there was some sort of heated argument apparently between Saleh and Douglas. Here's the statement from Woody Johnson right before we came on. Quote, "All this nonsense about a heated argument between Coach Saleh and me at the league meeting is absolutely false. It is yet another irresponsible report from NFL Network. Please disregard." End quote. There is a Woody Johnson, our Jets owner and overlord, speaking on X, previously Twitter. So maybe we'll get more into this on a Boy Green Daily tomorrow or something, or God knows what. But I did just want to, yes, I saw the statement from Woody, and that was Colleen Wolfe, and we could get into all that jazz later because we're doing some Joe Douglas action. But shout out to Woody. That's a pretty clear statement. There's no like, maybe something could have been misinterpreted. No. He kind of laid the lumber there. Woody's like, that didn't happen. Up yours, Colleen Wolfe, is basically what Woody Johnson just said. So, I didn't give it much credence yesterday, but I first heard it on the Jake Asman show. It seemed like a big nothing burger, but it's good to have that immediately cleared up. All right, let me throw another one at you. Let's go to my captain, C.J. Mosley. An amazing shout out from Joe Douglas during this, and I will read you the full quote. This is from Joe Douglas on... He was asked about C.J. Mosley receiving a brand new extension, which, by the way, we called. Booyah! We called here on the show what was coming. I just want to tell you. He listened to the show. Here's the quote. Quote, "C.J. is the captain and a selfless leader. When C.J. speaks or C.J. has actions, it means a lot. For him to do what he did for the team, he's a special person and a special player. A lot of what we've been able to do so far this offseason is because of C.J., and I can't thank him enough. And then I just kind of added to it at the end, oh, captain, my captain, and gave the salute. So buy or sell that CJ Mosley's selfless act, which Aaron Rodgers got a lot of love for last offseason for taking a pay cut. And that's basically what CJ Mosley did here. It's kind of dressed up in word salad that it doesn't look like, hey, he took a pay cut because he took an extension too. But basically, he took a massive pay cut for the team, opened up a bunch of cap space. And Joe Douglas says that a lot of these moves, all you Jet fans are going woo about, is because of our fearless leader, CJ Mosley. Buy or sell, Woody?
Buy. I feel like it would be hard. It's hard to sell that. I mean, we know that CJ's cap hit was huge. We know the type of leader, the type of guy that CJ is, selflessly helping the development of Quincy All-Pro Williams. So, yeah, I'll buy all the way. It is a blessing. It's a blessing that CJ Mosley and Aaron Rodgers on both sides. So we have a captain, a leader on either side of the ball, so selfless, so willing to help the team survive without, trying to worry about what they're going to eat. They're laser focused on the ring. So I'm going to buy that all day.
And I love this comment from Rick Kent. CJ's headed for the Ring of Honor when he retires. And I think he's more remembered right now for being a New York Jet than being a Baltimore Raven. And we're getting several captains. So Captain, our captain, with salutes for CJ Mosley. I just want to say it's been a wild wave of emotion since CJ Mosley 5 years ago, right around this time, signed a 5-year, $85 million contract, completely resetting the linebacker market that was previously set by also former Jet, Quan Alexander, although that wasn't set by the Jets. That was set by the 49ers. Quan Alexander for 5 seconds was the highest paid linebacker in football. And then CJ Mosley said, hold my beer, pal. And then the Jets went, off the top rope. And they paid him all kinds of crazy money. And we were like, oh, man, awesome leader. And then he gets hurt. We're like, oh, no. And then he opts out. We're like, oh, geez, another terrible Jet signing. And then now he's become our fearless leader and really the face of the return, the face of the change of eras from crappy Jets football the last some odd 12, 13 years to this new era with belief in Aaron Rodgers and everything else. So, captain, my captain, I 1,000% buy. And, CJ Mosley's number's a little smaller, so it's more in my price range now. Now I can't afford to buy it. So I do purchase what old Joe Douglas said there. And by the way, an awesome shout out. So shout out to Zach Rosenblatt, who asked the question, of course, which gave Joe Douglas an opportunity to answer. But I freaking love CJ Mosley, man. So he's really freaking cool. I love CJ.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about it when we were talking about that position, how I didn't want to see him go. So, or we didn't want to see him go. So he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
So the next one, I believe it was Pro Football Talk that said that Zach Wilson, which is a name that I really hope I don't have to say too many more times ever in life. They received trade offers for him.
Multiple. Yeah.
And they were waiting for the right one. They had jokes on social media talking about, they waiting for the fun size Kit Kat instead of the, regular, maybe throwing them in chicken, not just the small fry, all those different types of things. But Joe Douglas came out and actually, not as intense as Woody refuted, Colleen's claims, but Douglas has said that, nothing close has come out of the Zach Wilson talk. So are you buying that there have been no concrete offers for Zach Wilson?
Yeah, I wish I could sell this because that sounds great. And I'm going to be honest, when I saw the report, I'm like, huh? What? Because I read Pro Football Talk, multiple with an M and an E and an multiple in the middle. Trade offers. So I was like, excuse me? I'm like, multiple trade offers. And Mike, so here's the thing, everyone is different for the people they listen and talk to. I talked about this, I think, on the morning show. Like, Mike Florio is a guy I enjoy listening to. I enjoy his content. I enjoy his stops on the Rich Eisen show where he sits down with him like every week for like 20, 25 minutes. And he's got a wealth of NFL information. He's been around the business a long time. He actually has like a lawyer background. So like, it's really interesting to hear him talk on NFL topics. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, all right. That's just my opinion of him as a normal person. And then when the report came out, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that there's multiple offers. The Jets are like, let's see what else is out there. Like, because I think, with all due respect to Zach, and I'm curious to see if he goes somewhere else, does his career take off, or does he just disappear out of the league? I'm fascinated to see, does he become a success somewhere else, or is it just the Jets, or is it him? Is it a combination of both? We'll find out. But there's just no way in hell that the Jets had multiple offers on the table for Zach, because the Jets, just like you, Wudi, I hope, quoting Wudi 5 moments ago. Yeah, Wudi says, I don't want to say this name much longer, and neither do the Jets. The Jets want to wash their hands and move on. There's Aaron Rodgers, there's Tyrod, and I think in less than a month there's going to be a new quarterback rookie on this team. And where they talk about, like, how big is a party? How much is too many? Like, 3. Yeah. And then you got like this odd fourth wheel of Zach Wilson. You're like, oh, you're still here. Weird. So like, there's those vibes. Like, he's unwanted. And the Jets are trying to save face by trading him. And I don't blame them for doing everything they can to attempt to trade him. But yeah, Joe Douglas tried to nicely tell the Pro Football Talk Report, hey, you could kick it, pal. Because he's like, well, reporter, we've heard there's been multiple offers. Have there been multiple offers? Joe Douglas say, I'd say conversations, but nothing close. No. And then Woody's like, that didn't happen. So like the Woody Johnson thing is like, he was pretty clear. Like, that didn't happen. So yeah, long story short, there's no way they had multiple offers. I think they will keep him for the next month. And the ruse, nut cutting day is on draft. Maybe it's a third day of the draft where it's over, where I don't think once the Jets select a quarterback, and I think it's happened somewhere. I don't think it's happening at 10th overall, but I think it's happening somewhere. And then once you draft that guy, the rest of the NFL is like, now there was already a 0% chance Zach Wilson was coming back, but now there's truly a 0% chance because they're not cutting the rookie. So like, as soon as that pick is in, the Jets are effed in terms of value. So they would have to cut him, I think, at that point, because no one's going to trade for him. So yeah, there was never multiple offers on the table. I'm sure part of it's true that they're waiting for, but not a better offer, for a offer, singular, one offer on the table, and then that's something to discuss. So, yeah, I'm gonna sell that. I'm gonna sell that. Yeah,
I might buy it, man. I might buy it.
Boy.
And I think the contract is part of it. Hawk is out here talking about eating the contract. I think those types of or those aspects of this trade is what makes it complicated, because Zach Wilson will get paid like the second overall pick of the NFL draft, but he has not played like a second overall pick. I don't even know what type of pick. He hasn't even played like the second overall pick in the XFL draft. So with the contract and trying to get the money to add up, perhaps they have gotten deals, but they don't want to be on the hook, right? And that's why you want to trade as opposed to cut, right? Is for the financial benefit. But maybe there is no team they're like, oh, we'll take them, but you still gotta, eat that contract. So I think they probably have received offers, but just nothing juicy enough that they like.
Yeah, I would just say this: if you cut him, to your point, you save nothing. So that means if you're the Jets, even if you saved, and this is like, I'm being over dramatic, but even if someone said, hey, we'll take a penny off, and you're like, well, that's a penny more than I would have to pay. It won't get to that degree, but if someone said he's owed $5 million and change, hey Jets, will you pay $3 million of that? We'll pay $2 million of that. The Jets would be like, we saved $2 million, and some sort of asset would be coming back, a 2045 seventh. I'm joking as well, because you can only control 3 years of draft. So they only have, until the draft is over, they have 2024, 2025, and 2026 to work with. As soon as the 2024 draft is over, you have 2025, 2026, and 2027 to use. That's an NFL rule not a lot of people know about. So you can only control that far out of the draft. So maybe they could get, again, the draft pick way in the future of like, like a 2020, what would that be? 4, 5, a 2026 7th. Maybe they could get that, and then like in a few years, we'll be like, oh, let's break down the draft. Whoa, where'd this extra 7th come from? Oh yeah, Zach Wilson. Oh, I remember those days. Yeah, that was funny. So yeah, maybe there. We'll see. But yeah, the Jets are. But it is in the Jets' best interest to move Zach Wilson to save any amount of money, because if you cut him, you save nothing. So they should probably be motivated. If someone like the Chiefs show interest and say, even if they'll knock off a chunk of change, it's better than getting no change. So something to consider moving forward. Here's another one for you, Wudi. And I wrote a column about this, and I mean it. I wasn't being funny. It's not often that general managers admit mistakes, and I think that's multi-level. First off, they're egomaniacs, as they should be, right? They're an NFL general manager. There's only 32 of those jobs. Like, you have to, sniff your own whatever and go, that's not too shabby. Like, you got to be super confident in yourself. So it's very rare for NFL general managers, and I've been fortunate enough to know a few over the years that have worked at that job and then have moved on to other things. But Joe Douglas admitted to a big mistake, and here it was. This was Joe Douglas in a one-on-one interview with Eric Allen, and I count this as part of Joe Douglas's comments at the annual league meeting. He spoke with EA one-on-one moments after he spoke with the local media. Letting Morgan Moses walk as a free agent in 2022 was, quote, a huge mistake. Buy or sell that?
I feel like that's hard to sell. How can somebody sell that? It was,
well, I would say, I don't know if that was rhetorical, so I'll cut you off and jump in, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it takes two to take it. For instance, one of the dumbest things I hate arguing with Jet fans about, and I love Jet fans. I do a show every day. So I am a Jet fan. I talk to Jet fans all the time. But one of the stupidest arguments we have, and it only comes up every once in a while, and it's probably dead now because this player has retired and he's not playing anymore. So I don't imagine this conversation will come up ever again. But people say, the Jets should have kept Teddy Bridgewater. And I'm like, shut up. The Jets drafted Sam Darnold with the 3rd overall pick. Teddy Bridgewater never had a path to playing time, no matter what. So Teddy, who, by the way, they traded 3 months after they signed him, they traded him to the Saints. Teddy Bridgewater was only signed to a 1-year deal. At the end of that season, he wasn't coming back. So the people that say they should have kept him for what? For months, and then not get a 3rd round pick, which is what they got out of it. So, like, to me, that's one of the dumbest arguments ever, because it's not a prison camp. It's not like they were going to franchise tag Teddy Bridgewater as a backup quarterback. That doesn't make any sense. So people all the time say that, like, ooh, the Jets should have never traded away Teddy. Big mistake. And I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, he was never staying, so it doesn't matter. So the same thing here. Morgan Moses, while he said in interviews, and I've heard several of them one-on-one, where he said he didn't want to leave the Jets, but like business was business. The Jets, if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to double check. I didn't check the roster. They already had 2 starting spots accounted for. That was George Fant and Mekhi Becton. So the only reason Morgan Moses, if you look at like his run with the Jets, you're like, wow, he only appeared in 16 of the 17 games or whatever it was, or it was 15 of 16, whichever, but he didn't start a game. And you go, oh, why was that? That's because in Carolina, the starting lineup for that season week 1 was George Fant and Mekhi Becton. Becton goes down. They rearrange the line, and Morgan goes into the lineup. Morgan started off as a backup for the Jets, and he got into the lineup. So fast forward a year later, where everyone's healthy, Morgan didn't want to come to the Jets to be a backup. So again, it takes 2 to tango. Morgan can say, and as he has, that I never wanted to leave the Jets. Well, okay, but the Jets didn't have a starting spot for him. So sure, it was a mistake on the surface of not bringing him back. But okay, if he wasn't willing to come back as a backup, then I don't know if you call it a mistake, because was it truly a mistake? Would he have even come back anyway? Because again, he started off as a backup. That's my thing, because how much would he have played if Mekhi Becton and George Fant were healthy? Well, spoiler alert, he wouldn't have played. So he wouldn't have. His amazing start streak would have come to a screeching halt. I guess that's the context of the buy or sell potentially.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it and say that it was a huge mistake, because those guys and that sounds a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda to me. I mean, Becton he was hurt. And then he did not play for the next season. Like, Moses would have been a consistent starter. And then Fant had his own injuries of his own. So I would say that there was definitely a home for Morgan Moses. He was not paid premium starter dollars. And I think that was always my issue with that, was that Morgan Moses, that contract that, he took with the Ravens, when that came through,
3 years, $15 million. Yeah.
I was sick, man. I was sick talking to the group chat because I felt like that was very affordable for a guy who was so important to the success of that 11th ranked offensive line that we have not seen anything close to since. So huge mistake, I would say. And this isn't the first time that Joe Douglas has admitted a mistake. The first time he did, or the other time, yes, exactly. It was definitely a mistake, but it wasn't that bad because obviously it's not like Robbie is Devontae Adams right now. But
right.
Rashad Perriman should have never been trusted to be wide receiver 1 for anybody at all. But that's what happened. I would actually say that this one was more. Was it more egregious? I'll say it was more egregious than putting Rashad Perriman as number 1.
Yeah, I will tell you, by the way, in that George Fant season, he ended up playing in 15 of the 16 games of 2021. So he actually stayed healthy. The only one who didn't was Mekhi. And
no,
Mekhi
had to get the next season.
Oh, well, right, in the future. But again, if Morgan never again, so here's the thing. George Fant, in the season in which he was the starter with Mekhi, he appeared in 15 of the 16 games, right? In 2021. So he never was removed from the field. The only one that was Mekhi. So all I'm saying is, if Mekhi never gets removed from the field, which again he had shown a couple of. I don't have Mekhi's things in front of me, but in his 2020 season, his rookie season, I think he appeared in like 13 of the 16, something like that. Is what he appeared in. So there was no real indication that he was going to miss significant time in the future. So him just randomly getting hurt in Carolina sucks for Mekhi and how his career ended up turning out. But like I said, Morgan wouldn't have gotten on the field outside of, let's call it the same thing. What if Mekhi played another 13? Morgan plays in 3 or 4. Does Morgan return and try to compete with the guys that beat him out, or he showed up too late, whatever, because he ended up signing in early July? That's what I'm uncertain of. So again, I think it was a huge mistake because maybe you should have switched out the deck and figured it out and said, Morgan, you're too good. We will figure out getting you on the field. So I agree with the huge mistake thing. I'll buy that. But I'm just saying, from Morgan's perspective, would he have ever gotten on the field? It's the NFL. You remove one thing. What really happens? I think it's easy to say after the fact, oh yeah, what a huge mistake. Joe Douglas, what an idiot. But like, would that have all worked together? Anywho, that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. I have one last one here, Woody. I have one last one. Actually, I lied. I have two. How many do you have left?
I have one.
Okay, good. Please go ahead.
Oh, me? Oh, okay. Well, this is a direct quote from obviously Joe Douglas. That's what we're doing. He said he is open to anyone that can come in here and make an immediate impact for the team when talking about the 10th overall pick. This is something that I have spoken about on this show time and time again. No disrespect to the grown man, the very old man, Will McDonald, who was drafted last year. He has become a symbol. It's literally not about him. He is a symbol for the team just making an egregious pick. It was a bad pick. And I mean, even if he comes out this year and he is Will Nick Bosa, the fourth, it just comes out. That still did not help what was supposed to be a win now team last year. I am saying that I don't even know what would happen. I will have an aneurysm. That is what I'm saying. I'm saying it on there. Wow. I have an aneurysm. If the New York Jets draft somebody in the first round that is not expected to play major minutes in this season, the only way that's acceptable is if they trade back and they either get another first or like a second round, and that second rounder is supposed to play a lot of snaps. But if it's first and third, and that first person is just another edge to somebody who's supposed to sit and collect dust this year, I'm going to lose my mind. Boy Green, are you buying and selling that Joe Douglas is going to bring in an immediate day one impact starter with the 10th overall pick?
And by the way, I'll add some extra splash to this because this answer to the question was in reference specifically to Brock Bowers. Although Rich Samini didn't ask that as part of the question, he said, it was funny from Rich. He said, Joe, what's your philosophy on tight ends, taking them in the top 10? Not saying anyone specific, and everyone starts laughing because obviously he's referencing the only tight end that is currently being considered in mock drafts as a potential top 10 pick, and that's Brock Bowers. And interestingly, Joe Douglas started naming tight ends that had recently gone top 10. So it's like, wow, okay, so this is something he must have been recently thinking about because he brought it up. And he talked about it being a balance. But he also said, again, we're open to anyone that can come in here and make an immediate impact for the team. So here's the thing, Wudi. I'll throw it back to you before I buy or sell because I think there's interesting layers to this. So, for instance, pass rusher, right? That if they took it, which I walked through the doomsday scenario on the morning show, that would be Will McDonald again because, like, unless his player is just, I don't even know. He's going to do the same thing Will McDonald. So Will McDonald replaces Huff, and then this new guy replaces Will McDonald from last year, and he plays minimal snaps. The only snap increase that would change, I suppose, which didn't happen last year, is Aaron Rodgers was hurt, so they didn't play with all these leads. So then you probably didn't get the full complement of what Will McDonald, for instance, would have looked like. So maybe Will plays a lot more snaps in that made-up world that we're talking about here. But so let's say pass rusher at 10, that's a player that in theory would be collecting relative dust to being a first-round pick, number one. Number two, another player that would go in your category, offensive line, there's no clear starting spot. And I made a whole spiel earlier that even Joe Alt, to me, wouldn't start over anyone on the line because it's not like he's going to learn Guatemalan and start playing center. So Joe Alt would be on the bench. And then maybe if there's an injury, he comes in. So when you say the immediate impact, it seems like it paints a broad brush covering offensive line and defensive line primarily, because outside of that, or quarterback. So those are the three, I suppose. So quarterback, offensive line, defensive line. The other positions, wide receiver, they're getting on the field. Brock Bowers, he's getting on the field. I'm trying to think of realistically, they're not taking a running back. So I can't think of any other position that qualifies. So let me just push it back to you to make sure that I'm buying the same thing that you're selling, if that makes sense, is that those three positions that you would not be comfortable with, because in theory, those three, because quarterback especially, obviously, but in particular on the offensive line, defensive line, they would be projected for very few snaps in their first season.
Offensive line, for what I hope is obvious reasons, is way more acceptable than D-line.
Yeah.
Right. Tyron, high injury rate of the last few seasons. The Jets in general, high injury rate. And if they are getting somebody at 10, then we're talking about a premium, if Alt somehow falls, but he's probably not falling past the Titans. Fashanu, someone like that. So that's okay. I would still prefer the trade down and, get one of those later options. Fuaga, right, has kind of fallen down the mocks a little bit. Getting somebody like that in the later just to secure a quality starter in the second round if one of those is coming in the first.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, to add a little extra juice, like if you trade back and get Tyler Guyton, if you trade back and get Mims, if you trade back and get Fuaga, if you trade back and get Fontenot, any one of those guys, I would agree with you that I think to the grand majority of the 500-plus people that are watching in here right now, that would categorize as, okay, you got a guy, you traded back, you did your due diligence, you got a second or a third, because even if you trade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots, somewhere in that range is going to be a second or a third. So a day 2 pick that's added to the table on top of the pick that you get. So anywho, long story short, I prefer to, maybe we'll have the same take here. I prefer an immediate impact guy. I want one of the top 3 receivers I want one of the top 3 receivers, Joe Alt, or Brock Bowers. Those are my top 5 right now as I have it. Again, Neighbors, Harrison, or Adunze, Brock Bowers, or Joe Alt. And again, there's a chance a lot of those aren't on the board, obviously. But those are my 5. And those 5 are on the board. I'm probably sticking and picking. Now, even there's a chance with Brock Bowers, you could probably still slide a few spots, still get Brock Bowers, and get that pick you're talking about. Because I think you could probably get a little cute with that. And if not Brock Bowers, you lose out on. You're like, well, okay, we're getting that other offensive tackle. So I think it might work out in either scenario. But I'm leaning towards immediate impact as opposed to offensive lineman. I think Tyron and Morgan gave you the flexibility of not having to do it. If they do end up doing it, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all if Fashanu is a New York Jet, if Joe Alt is a New York Jet, if Fuaga or even any of those names I mentioned is a New York Jet. I'm not mad at it because, I'm like, okay, more protection for Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to go, oh, man, Aaron Rodgers has more protection. God darn it. No, why the hell would I say that? So, no, all of it, it's all good in the hood, baby. If it's a wide receiver, phenomenal. Tight end, great. Offensive line, all righty. So I'm probably pretty steady with anything that happens, but I prefer immediate. Those are my top 5 on my big board heading into the draft, and let's see what happens. And again, I get it that I'm not saying all 5 of those are going to be on the board at 10. Actually, as a matter of fact, I am guaranteeing that it will not happen. Those 5 absolutely will not all be on the board. But let me just say this. Excuse my Guatemalan here, but crazy shit happens, man. People slip and all over the place. You're like, whoa, how the hell did this guy fall? That's when, Neighbors or something. Someone said that they saw a mock with Neighbors to the Jets. Friggin' cool. Harrison, okay. Slip and fall or trade up or any of that stuff. So yeah, I'm all aboard immediate impact. But you can eventually get me. It's a political answer, I guess. I paint broadly with both strokes. I prefer immediate impact, so I buy that. That's what Douglas is looking for. But I am okay if it's one of those other things. Based on the situations we discussed.
Yes. Wow. Well, it seems like we might need you in that room to
That's for sure.
Make that pick, because I am going to sell. I think I truly believe, and I've been wrong before. All right. I'm not, I'll be wrong again. I've been wrong before, but I've also been right before and can be right again. I don't think we're going to be super excited about this first pick. I just don't. I think. To be honest, I think it'll be an offensive lineman, which, like you said, is fine. I'll be okay with that. More protection. Like you said, I'm not going to start speaking in a high pitched voice talking about more protection. I won't be saying that. But I also will not do a cartwheel. I'm not going to be like, oh wow, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, it's not sexy. I understand. Yeah.
If Brock Bowers is a New York Jet, you might see your boy attempt his first ever back handspring. Okay, that is the type of excitement, the type of jubilee that would be flowing through the veins if a pick like that. That's what I'm talking about. Immediate impact. Garrett, Mike Will, Reese, Bowers in the middle.
Fun.
Oh,
that's fun.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I can't get up like that for Sean.
Nice. We just secured our swing tackle. Yes. Excellent. Yeah. No, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Now, maybe in week 5 you feel differently potentially if that's the pick and you're like, oh, thank God we got Fashanu or whoever the guy is. Maybe, but yeah. But I'm for the splash, baby. I'm for the splash. Here's the final one. It's a fun one. Joe Douglas and Sauce ended up retweeting this. That was so cool. I didn't know if he was going to do that, but I listened to all the interviews. So SNY Jets, they get it before any of us on some of those. So they're tweeting out a few of the clips, but I like listening to the presser myself. And at the end of the presser, I hear Joe Douglas make a Sauce joke about being the GM. I said, oh, that's funny. I got to tweet that out. That's hilarious. And then Sauce ended up quote tweeting it and saying he loved it. But Joe Douglas giving a nice job to LaSauce for the roster construction this offseason, and that perhaps he's the reason that we put this team together. LaSauce getting credit for the roster construction for the Jets. Buy or sell, that he deserves that credit. Wudi.
Ooh, does he deserve that credit? That's a you throwing a word like deserve. I'm gonna have to go with yes. He is LaSauce. He has been engaging with the fan base, so he probably has a better finger on the pulse of what the fan base wants than the actual New York Jets. He's been talking with them. He was obviously a huge part of the Aaron Rodgers recruitment that followed up or follow through with when Aaron Rodgers was actually here. They were the boys, they were out here chilling with Jessica Alba, doing their thing like that. That's the sauce, vibing. His play on the field is also a huge reason to want to join. I mean, Rodgers has also said that a couple of foundational pieces on both sides of the ball, and that is Sauce. Sauce is the only person on that team to be an all-pro each of the last 2 seasons. So, first team. So I think La Sauce definitely is saucy. I think he definitely deserves that respect. There was that one point this offseason where I was calling him a better GM than Joe Douglas. Joe, he came back, but I do think Sauce deserves that credit. I will buy.
Again, I saw his interview with the Pivot, which was really cool. Again, Ryan Clark. Why the hell am I still blocked, man? Anywho, be a man, Ryan Clark. Let's have a good Jets discussion. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. But I did get to hear the Pivot podcast with Sauce, and they asked him basically to put on the GM hat. We talked about this weeks ago. Put on the GM hat. What do you want to see this offseason? He said, I want to see protection for Aaron Rodgers. I want him standing upright. And I want to make sure that Garrett never gets double teamed again. And Mike Williams, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, John Simpson, LaSauce, your work is done, my friend. Your work is done. And he's the one who apparently knew about the Mike Williams visit before anyone else because he teased on Twitter, hey, we're getting that visit next week. And most people thought he was talking about OBJ. It ended up being Mike Williams, which turned into the sandwich story. So, yeah, Sauce, amen, brother. Yeah, he deserves all the credit, baby. All right, 2 comments before we finish up. Ricky in New York says he went to sleep after Boy Green Daily this morning, woke back up to Boy Green. So you're welcome. Yeah, a couple of bites of the apple keeps the doctor away or something they say. So you're welcome, Ricky, and we're on all the time. Number 2, we got a YouTube super chat in here, so thank you so much for sending this in. We got Golden Robert. What a name. I love that. There is never immediate impact players. I'm assuming that he is saying that drop down. Ghetto line. Now, I will say, if I was a betting man, and that's a very dangerous thing right now, according to Shohei Ohtani and some random Porter brother in the NBA, but, this is dangerous times in the gambling streets. But if I was willing to dip my toe into those dangerous, choppy waters, I would bet that the 3 wide receivers are not on the board. None of the 3 are on the board at 10. If I'm a betting man, and I'm betting on what is most likely to occur, Neighbors, Odunze, and Harrison Jr., if the teams in front of us have half a brain cell, we'll select those players well before the Jets draft. That's true. And then the other impact, again, I don't know who else it would be. Quarterback don't count for the Jets, obviously. You have the 3 wide receivers. And then offensive line, no matter who it is, wouldn't be impact. So the only player that I believe that is guaranteed, I would be flabbergasted if this player I'm about to say is not available for the Jets. It would just shock me, is Brock Bowers. I think there's 1,000% chance on the board. I don't know anyone that would do it. Now, you could get surprised. Bijan Robinson, right? Most people thought he'd be on the board for the Jets, although that wasn't a pick people thought the Jets were going to make. But just to the point, like he goes 8th overall, and all of us go, whoa. We do one of those that all of a sudden Bijan Robinson went 8th overall. So maybe Brock Bowers goes, not probably 8th overall, the Falcons have Kyle Pitts, but you know what I mean? So maybe there is a surprise like that in the draft. But I am almost willing to guarantee that Brock Bowers is there. And I think, especially with Wudi, you eloquently put it with your jubilee and jubilation and the Who's and Whoville. Okay, it's the captain of Jubilee, the crown jewel. Everybody, where's Cindy Lou Who and all this action that's apparently happening? I'll tell you this. I think Brock Bowers would obviously be an immediate impact guy for the Jets. You mentioned Mike Williams and another pass catcher, and the way Benjamin Solak talked about him with Ethan Greenberg at the Combine, saying he's like a running back when he has the football. And he said that, this is Ben Solak of The Ringer talking, he said that a George Kittle comparison doesn't do Brock Bowers justice with his ability to break tackles. Can you think about that for a second? So we've heard Connor Rogers say, I kind of like the comp to George Kittle. We're like, whoa, George Kittle, that's pretty crazy. Solak went a step further, saying it doesn't do it justice to call him George Kittle because of how explosive and the breaking of tackles and yards after catch he's able to do. And Solak, again, continuing to quote him from this, said he can routinely turn a 5-yard gain into a 15 or 20-yard gain. And he used all these examples. He's like, random ass tight end catches a 5-yard pass. It's 5 yards. He said Tyler Conklin catches a 5-yard pass. It's 5 yards. Brock Bowers catches a 5-yard pass. It could go to 25. And you're like, whoa. So there's a lot of juice there. So I would disagree. So I love the super chat. Golden Robert, thanks for supporting the show. It's awesome. It helps keep these lights on, baby. And I already did one of those darkness shows during the Aaron Rodgers where I used my phone flashlight to keep the light on me, when the power went out. So I've done that before, but I prefer the light. I prefer that. Yeah, and I will tell you that I believe it's a near guarantee that Brock Bowers will be on the board. And by the way, if he's not on the board, and I'm wrong, that means one of the receivers is on the board because math is going to math. 4 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, beep, boop, bop, and count all the numbers. Pull out your calculator, nerds in the back of the room, that there is almost a guarantee that an impact player will be there because it's going to be either one of the 3 wide receivers or Brock Bowers. One way, so one of those 4 bastards is going to be on the board for the Jets, which would, again, quote, i.e., be an impact player. I hope if we go for the offensive line. Yeah, sorry for that long rant there, Woody. But
no, well, because the last time we got a super chat together, we had different interpretations of the message.
Oh,
itself.
Okay, so maybe I'm misinterpreting this. Okay.
So I don't know, but when I saw this, I thought he was saying that there's never an immediate impact player, so the team will just drop down, make the pick, right? Drop down and make the pick for O-line. Like that's what I thought. And while I hope what he meant was what you said, because to me that's less wrong than trying to say that there is never an immediate impact player, because I could just go down the list of rookies that have completely changed their offenses production just by existing. Even last year, Sam Laporta, Puka Nacua came out the blue. I mean, there are always immediate immediate impact players that can be found. I personally believe if JSN was drafted instead of Will McDonald, he could have been an immediate impact player and saved us from Randall Cobb for 7 weeks of Planet Fitness membership. But that didn't happen. I think the Jets can certainly find impact players. Doesn't have to be the first round. The caliber of players that you talked about and the breakdown of Brock Bowers, I mean, it's like I'm starting to sweat right now. It's not the hoodie.
It's tantalizing. How is it not? I get it. I get the fear for the Jets' own sworn history, war-torn history of Kyle Brady's and not going.
No, it's not fear. It's excitement. I would love Brock.
Oh no, I'm saying I know most Jet fans though that are not. There's a lot of fans that are not. I would say I don't want to generalize. There is a large portion of the fan base that does not want Brock Bowers, and they tell me they bring up Kyle Brady or they bring up other tight ends that have gone in the first round like Kyle Pitts, T.J. Hockenson, all these other. I know you're excited, and I'm excited. I'm saying there's a lot of Jet fans out there that are not. That Jason Morrow, there's another one from Rick Kent. There's been others where like tight ends in Jets history that they haven't hit. Like Dustin Keller, I thought was really fine, and I wish he would have had this second breath to his career. I really liked Dustin Keller, but you could go to a lot of different names, and I would understand that some of those people are fearful, of Brock Bowers because of that war-torn history of tight ends in the first round. But I personally would be very excited by this selection.
Definitely. So hopefully he just meant that, like you said, one of those top 4 won't be there, so drop down. And he did not mean that there is never somebody who can impact the game, because I will strongly disagree with that. If it's not one of those 4, or Joe Alt, I'll actually agree. I'll co-sign Boy Green's top 5, because if Joe Alt is there,
okay.
I'm not hesitating. I mean, I don't be going for anybody. So Joe Alt, if he's there, he's definitely in play. But I think right now the idea of trading down and Fontenot and like Ricky Pearsall from Florida, like if they can do that, or like you said, trade down and do Bowers and somebody else would just be a blessing.
Yeah. By the way, I have a guilty pleasure to it. Not guilty, but I have this segment I used to do on my afternoon radio show. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show, but it was a segment called "Confess Your Sins," and the point of the segment on my afternoon show was embarrassing sports or life or whatever, where you admit to things that you've done that you've never said anywhere before, and you just kind of reveal your truth. Like for people that are like, I don't do this, but if someone did, like, I watch a Kardashian show, and you're like, geez, what a loser. Like, oh, God. Yeah, you can't be proud of that. So, like, confess your sins. Here's a confess your sins. As people are, the Jay Samara, someone come up in the chat. I have a Jay Samara jersey in my closet. I absolutely and I've talked to him before. I actually have his number still on my phone. There's I don't know if that's a flex. What's the opposite of a flex? Because that's not a flex. I don't even know what that is. I was like, yeah, I got Jason Mara. And they're like, ugh, gross.
It's like blackmail.
Yeah, right. So, no, we're not comparing Brock Bowers to Jason Mara. I'm saying Jet fans, I think, are scarred themselves with Jason Mara's of the world, although he was a second-round pick, and Kyle Brady's and all these others, that they were just kind of sworn off to the position, which I think is kind of crazy because everybody's different, and I hope that people kind of have an open mind with people. But I do have a Jason Mara jersey in the closet. So
well, I do think Golden Robert has doubled down to actually say that he does not believe there will be an impact player from the. So he thinks that this first round pick will be a bust.
Oh, okay. Well, here's his second super chat. So again, I appreciate the love. So keep the YouTube super chats coming, baby. That again keeps our lights on. How many New York Jets #1 picks were impact? Ken O'Brien or Penn State pick bust, which I'm sure you're referencing a certain former Penn State running back that the Jets have had in their history. Let me go Jets draft history, and we could go piece by piece to say who was a high impact guy. So, okay. I have this up. Here's the Jets draft history. So obviously Will McDonald does not count. Sauce Gardner, first team All-Pro. Yeah, that was pretty good. And defensive rookie of the year. Garrett Wilson, offensive rookie of the year, first offensive rookie of the year in Jets franchise history. Yep, he counts. Jermaine Johnson obviously was not spectacular in his first year. Zach Wilson, not great. Elijah Vera Tucker was fine. Mekhi Becton was injured. He had some splash. Quinnen Williams, he was very slow for people who forget the start of his career. Sam Darnold was kind of meh. Jamal Adams, I don't think he was an All-Pro in his first year. That was a couple years later for Jamal. But he made some plays. Darren Lee, oh boy. Leonard Williams, oh boy. Calvin Pryor, oh boy. Wow, we're going down the list. D. Milner, oh boy. Sheldon Richardson.
How relevant is Calvin Pryor to this era of New York Jets right now?
The Louisville Slugger.
If we talk about the Joe Douglas era, which is an era that I'm not even like super hyped. Like I was calling for Joe Douglas's head the other day. I still will wholeheartedly say he's only had one good draft in his Jets career so far. And even with that horrible draft record, he has still found impact players in the first round, multiple of them.
Yeah, obviously I'm going way past that when like a D. Milner was terrible. Although he did have that one defensive rookie of the month. I remember that fondly, which unfortunately didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to. Sheldon Richardson was the defensive rookie of the year. Quentin Coples. I loved that pick. I thought that was going to be great, and it wasn't. Muhammad Wilkerson. We're going real back now. Kyle Wilson, 2010. Mark Sanchez, of course, although he had a lot of bad. Vernon Golston and Dustin Keller, the double dip first round pick in 2008. Revis, obviously, that's a great one. The Brick Mangold in 2006, that one chops off. 2005, the Jets didn't have a first round pick. They had a couple of twos. Mike Nugent, the kicker, was their first selection in that draft. Jonathan Vilma, another. I'm pretty sure he won Defensive Rookie of the Year that year in 2004. Dwayne Robinson, terrible. Brian Thomas, I love that guy. He was never, a first round pick that you're like, yeah, but I love Brian Thomas. He's a good guy. And we'll stop at the beginning of the 21st century here. We won't go back any further. Santana Moss was a super fun guy. Really enjoyed Santana Moss. And then we had 4 first rounders in 2000. What a draft. Sean Ellis, a longtime Jet legend. John Abraham, who we liked a lot until he got traded. The Jets actually got Mangold out of that traded pick. So everyone hates that the Jets traded John Abraham, but without trading John Abraham, we never get Nick Mangold. So keep that in mind, people. for those who count at home. Chad Pennington, who's a longtime Jet, of course, and Anthony Becht, who had a long career in the NFL. So, when you go through that long-ass list of Jets drafts in the 21st century, there was plenty of impact there. There was obviously plenty of not. D. Milner, Louisville Slugger, Vernon Gholston, good Lord have mercy, or Will McDonald, who is still unproven, but like you're talking about immediate impact guys, I'm assuming is the breadth of this question. And there was, I read plenty. Again, Sauce, Garrett, those were a bunch as well.
Yeah. So, again, wholeheartedly, but respectfully disagree.
Yeah, respectfully.
Yes,
yeah.
Of course. I think there's plenty of impact that can be made. I promise you, Brock Bowers will make some impact. Odunze will make some impact. And if they trade back and, secure, one of these offensive linemen probably won't make an immediate impact. But even that second round, like if they do secure a second rounder, the second round guys can make impact. Breece Hall was a second rounder that made some immediate impact. Even Elijah Moore had a spectacular rookie season. Even we know where he's at now, but that was a very fun season. So securing, either trading down to secure that first and second round or getting a stud in the first can make huge waves for this organization. Please do not be fooled into thinking otherwise.
And there's one last request here, Wudi. I don't know if you can work this into your schedule. NY Jets Superfan says, you guys got to organize this so we have nonstop shows. So no sleep, just a 24/7 kind of GoPro camera on us. So it's just Boy Green meets Wudi for the rest of our lives. And we're just kind of walking down the street and there's like a camera on us. So we're just talking Jets. What say you?
I mean, if we can organize something, if we can get sponsored by Starbucks, somebody to give me some caffeine, inject that caffeine into my veins, then yes, let's do it. I'm all in it. I'm already talking Jets nonstop, so I might as well do it with you guys because it's a blast seeing the chats, reading the chats, getting flamed sometimes, but getting hyped up other times.
I love it. So thank you to the 600 people who are live right now or whoever ends up watching after the fact. And specifically on YouTube, I see we got 150. Make sure you guys, if you haven't already, please. It's really cool that, we have Golden Robert here who gave us a lot of YouTube super chats, which is awesome. But if you just want to contribute in a free way and it makes a tremendous impact, like the video, hit subscribe down below and help spread the good gospel of this New York Jets channel, all content all the time. And hell, if you ever want to dive into the YouTube world, feel free for some super chat action or join the Boy Green Super Fan Club. And Rick Kent ends with this. Wudi is Boy Green's best guest by far. And there you go there. Beautiful.
Rick, you have a seat at my table any day you want, my man. Any day you want. All right. Rick Kent, I owe you. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, Wudi, send that royalty check to Rick after this show. Send your royalty check to Rick. We appreciate that. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
A new stick of gum, $3.65 coming your way, Rick.
There you go, Rick. And it was awesome to break down the annual league meeting. We'll go back on Tuesday. So we'll be back at 3 o'clock on Tuesday. I'll be at my radio station because I got Syracuse Mets baseball, baby. So I will be there for Tuesday, Thursday. You'll see me at the radio station, but we'll keep these shows cranking, guys. So make sure you check them out live every Tuesday, Thursday at 3 o'clock. Plus, we're live every single day at 7:30 in the morning for Boy Green Daily. I'll be on tomorrow solo. No Italy. He had to call out. So it'll be just Boy Green tomorrow morning. We'll see you then. Probably dive into this Woody Johnson story. That'll be fun and more like it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Woody, we'll see you on Tuesday, pal.
Absolutely.
God bless everybody. Take care.